If you've ever felt like your days are a non-stop race, you have your children to plan for, to pick and drop from school, you have all these other family commitments that you must adhere to. You have the unavoidable meetings that come with your role at work. You have your team check-ins to ensure maximum productivity, not forgetting your personal side hustle. And how about your fitness goals? They say health is wealth. And then you catch yourself staring blankly at your screen, losing hours of busy work, wondering what you're doing, what you should be doing, if you're following the right sequence. You're not lazy. Your brain is overloaded. And in this video, I'm sharing with you 7 practical ways that you can force your brain to focus, especially when the pressure is high and there are distractions everywhere. Hi, welcome back to my channel. And if we are crossing paths for the very first time, my name is Nancy. I'm a former airline professional turned workplace leadership trainer and entrepreneur. I've equally authored a few books, my most recent work being Lead Outwardly Loud. So you'll mostly find me on this platform discussing topics on matters of leadership, professional growth, career advancement as you endeavor to protect your mental and emotional well-being. These are lessons that I learned in my leadership journey, in my leadership bootcamp, if you may, both in the aviation industry and as a business owner. So if this is the kind of content that resonates with you, kindly consider subscribing. Press that notification bell on your screen and you receive regular updates whenever I release a new video. And to all my subscribers, new and old alike, thank you so much for joining and growing this community. Our brains were not designed to handle constant pressure and endless distractions. It doesn't know the difference between a real emergency and everyday stressors of modern work life. So you're here switching between tasks. You're actively trying to dodge interruptions. You're priding yourself in processing too much information all at once. But this is what is going to push your brain into survival mode because it considers that overflowing inbox, the back-to-back meetings, even the vibrating phone, your vibrating phone like a threat, which actually provokes your system into pumping out cortisol and adrenaline. Adrenaline rush is good stress, but this threat that I'm addressing signals actual danger to your brain. It keeps your body in fight or flight mode, that feeling that you're being chased by a lion, but instead of running, you're just sitting at your desk, drowning in notifications, staring at the 15 plus open tabs. And then instead of being actively involved in your work, your brain literally shrinks your working memory. Your thinking narrows. Then you find yourself exhausting your mental energy. Just imagine your phone operating at 1% battery with no charger in sight. We can't just wish for focus or wait for a quiet moment. There are practical tools that can help snap our brains out of the stress loop. And by the end of this video, you'll know how to key into these strategies and normalize your concentration and focus. So if you're ready, let's dive right in. At number 1, physical reset. You want to use movement to trigger focus. Sometimes focus is not just about thinking harder, it's about moving smarter, jump-starting your nervous system with a quick physical movement. When your brain feels foggy, sluggish, scattered, you're going to find that even the simplest of tasks just feels harder and takes longer. Then you take hours what you're supposed to be taking minutes to do. It's like wading through mud and you find yourself reading and rereading the same line or even just zoning out in meetings. You struggle to hold on to details. It's more like your mental Wi-Fi is just dropping to 1 bar. Everything slows down, and this is where the reset button comes in handy. Movement is going to help reboot the system, bringing blood flow and energy back to the brain so that you can clear the mental traffic jam. So the next time you feel like your mind is scattered and you get numbed and exhausted by the back-to-back meetings or the client calls, just try walking around your office for 2 to 3 minutes, or even just walking up and down the stairs. Stretch, shake your arms and legs. Take 3 deep belly breaths, walk to the kitchen, grab yourself a glass of water. And by the time you sit back down, you're going to feel rebooted. Your brain will be sharper because you'll have released the tension in your body. And this instantly shifts you from that reactive stress state to a proactive, energized state where the overwhelm is diluted and you're more in control. And when in leadership, you know that your teams are looking to you to set the tone. So you'll often feel like you have to push through the mental fog. You don't want them to see you sitting frozen in stress because they're going to feel it too. But with movement, this physical reset I'm talking about is going to help you pull out of it with less time and better results. Your body is a tool, so use it to lead with energy, not just grind through pressure. At number 2, time blocking. You want to tell your brain when to focus. Your brain, my brain, they need clear time limits. It loves knowing when to focus. And if you don't give it clear focus windows, it's going to spend the whole day chasing the next urgent thing. And then you're going to fall into the trap of always being busy, but rarely effective. And this is where the famous Pomodoro technique comes in handy. Instead of saying, I'll work on this all afternoon, set a timer. Tell yourself, for 25 minutes, I'm going to work on only this. And then put your phone away from reach and go all in. Ignore everything else until the timer, the alarm goes off. Then take a 5-minute break. Repeat the process at least 3 more times. And when you get around the 1 hour mark, you can take a longer break, maybe 30 to 40 minutes. Why? The brain can handle intensity if it knows that there's an end point. And what you're doing here is you're protecting your mental bandwidth by reducing decision fatigue. That way, you can actually focus on the high impact tasks and not react to everything else around you. And the plan here is not just to manage your to-do list. You'll actually be managing your attention, which means that you're less likely to waste energy figuring out what to do next. You'll be proactively shaping your day around what matters the most. And also, you'll relay what intentional focus looks like to your team members. Just tell yourself, that your brain is the most valuable asset that you have. So you want its best energy to go to the right things and not necessarily the loudest or the most urgent one. And then on the flip side, if you struggle with time blocking, especially when in leadership, you're going to find yourself slipping into constant firefighting mode where you feel busy all day, but you accomplish very little meaningful work. The important tasks that literally define your leadership impact just get buried under busy work. And then you end your days mentally exhausted, wondering where time went. So challenge yourself to block time with short bursts, and you'll see the rewards trickling in. At number 3, cut the noise, one focus point at a time. Have you ever tried to focus when your attention is being pulled in 20 different directions? It's a challenge. And the obvious part in cutting out the noise is, turning off notifications, silencing your phone, putting it face down, or even putting it in flight mode, closing the extra tabs on your computer screen. Multitasking is going to hurt your focus. But then there's such a thing as protecting your windows of pure focus, where you intentionally carve out time for your brain to sink into deep, meaningful work by providing an interrupted space. Sometimes we tell ourselves, I'll quickly check out this notification on my phone and then get back to writing that proposal. Only that the focus and concentration will not be the same. And by cutting out the noise and fiercely guarding your focus windows, you're consciously training your brain to operate at its highest level. Just try out this exercise. Block 1 hour in your calendar a few times in a week and label it leadership upgrade time. No meetings, no inbox, no interruptions whatsoever. Just you, your brain, and the work at hand. That 1 hour, if you make it consistent, is going to deliver more progress than an entire day of multitasking. And the beauty of cutting out the noise is that you get to show up fully present for what matters. You're going to be present physically, emotionally, mentally. And in leadership, you're always toggling between the big picture vision and the nitty-gritty details. So if your focus is on 3 things or even more at the same time, you'll not be fully zoned in on for any of them. Just think of the moments when a team member pops into your office and they have this pressing issue that they need you to address, they need you to handle. So you're technically listening, but your brain is still half inside your inbox, replying to an email you started working on early in the day. They feel it. Your body language is going to give you away, especially your facial expressions, the eyes. But when you cut out the noise, you cut the important nuances, you spot smarter solutions, and even engage more meaningfully with your team members. And there's a certain depth that leadership demands. And when you struggle to cut out the noise, you can easily stay stuck in surface level attention, skimming, half listening, rushing, which actually leads to shallow work, missed insights, unintentional mistakes, which can actually get people talking within the organization and ripple across your team. So just try on a personal level to have a meaningful conversation while scrolling through your phone. Sure, you'll be technically there, but depth, connection, clarity will be non-existent. And in leadership, this can be costly because shallow attention is synonymous with shallow results. At number 4, Mental anchoring. You want to start with one clear sentence. You know, when everything feels important, your brain doesn't know where to land. So you want to anchor it by saying out loud, what's the most single important thing right now, right here. And the plan is to narrow your mental spotlight and give your brain a clear target to focus on, to anchor your mind with one clear goal. You know, this is where your sticky notes, you know, the post-its come in handy. For example, you're prepping for what I call an elevation interview, and you expect a very intimidating group of panelists in front of you, or you have a tough performance conversation coming up with your bosses. So besides proper research, you're fully aware that everything about you is going to be put under scrutiny, put under the microscope. So you write on a sticky note, you know, throughout the preparation process, stay calm and clear. That simple anchor is going to keep you grounded even when emotions are over the roof, because your brain has a clear compass to follow. Whatever you do, stay calm and clear. And the moment you take up a leadership role, you do not just carry tasks, you carry emotional weight. Am I making the right call? What if this doesn't work? What if they think, you know, what are they going to think of this decision? Mental anchoring is going to calm that emotional noise. It's going to quiet that swirl of doubt. Give your brain permission to focus on only one thing and let go of all the other worries, the doubts, the what ifs, you know, for a while, so that you can give your full energy to that which moves you forward. And your brain has a natural energy peaks during the day. For most people, it's in the morning or late morning, and if you don't mentally anchor during those golden hours, you can burn through them chasing the little things like checking emails that would actually wait, jumping on low priority requests, rewriting the same sentence over and over again because you're unclear on the main point. And without anchoring, you waste your brain's best fuel on busy work, and by the time you get to the important stuff, you're running on fumes. It's not just about losing time now, it's about losing the highest value version of your brain, the version that actually your leadership role really, really needs. At number 5, visual cues. You know, you want to signal your brain with, simply put, your environment teaches your brain what to do. We are wired for pattern recognition. So the brain is going to associate, certain spaces, sounds, sights, even smells with specific activities and moods. For example, your bedroom is going to trigger sleepiness because your brain links it with rest. A cafe or a bistro is going to spark creativity because you associate it with casual, relaxed energy. A cluttered desk or workspace can trigger overwhelm because your brain sees it as visual chaos and thinks, oh, there's too much to handle. Our brains are constantly picking up cues, consciously and unconsciously, from the spaces around us. And those cues silently shape our behavior, our attention, even our mental state. Just think about it. If your desk is piled with random papers, your emails open in addition to a few other tabs that you're not using but you're receiving notifications from, your phone's buzzing, the brain doesn't know which signal to follow and in what order. But when you design your space for focus, like, clearing your desk, closing your laptop, putting specific background music, from a specific playlist, that sets the tone for deep work. And these small rituals, if you may, will condition your brain to shift into work mode. You're literally sending your brain a clear message that this is where we focus. And this is very important, especially for those in leadership, because your days are already unpredictable. You can't always control what's thrown at you, but you can actually control the signals that you send yourself. Like, when I sit on this specific chair at this particular spot, I focus. When I open this notebook, I strategize. When I close my door and drink a specific herbal tea from my favorite mug, it's time to get serious and do some deep work. You're literally building a kind of mental shortcut by setting up visual cues for focus. And here, your environment is going to be gently nudging your brain in the right direction. So your environment is like a silent coach, constantly whispering to your brain, here is what we do here. And when you set it up intentionally, you make focus easier without even relying on sheer willpower. On the flip side, if you overlook or completely ignore engaging your brain, through the visual cues, you're going to find yourself in spaces that give mixed signals, like working from a couch, that one place where you binge watch your favorite Netflix series. And it's also where you want to be sending and receiving emails from work. Or you normalize answering WhatsApp texts and calls while preparing board slides. Your brain stays in that kind of limbo because it cannot pick the wheat from the chaff. It doesn't know what's serious and what's entertainment. And that mental friction is going to quietly drain your energy throughout the day. If you're still with me up until this point, please let me know in the comments, which point has stood out to you the most, or even if you're guilty of one or two that I've spoken about. And also, please let me know where you're watching from and if this video is resonating with you. At number 6, mini deadlines. You want to tap into healthy pressure. Our brains love the adrenaline of a deadline. You know, deadlines motivate us because they create urgency. So if you don't have one, challenge yourself after this video to create one. Tell yourself something to the tune of, I need to finish this report by this time, no matter what. Or you have this client report to draft. Tell yourself, I have 90 minutes to get the first draft done. Not perfect, just done. That self-imposed challenge has a way of snapping your attention by lighting a fire under you that is going to keep your brain sharp. And if you're a victim of perfection paralysis, the mini deadlines are going to help your brain cut through perfection and procrastination so that you can take the fast, focused action when and where necessary. And this is gold for those in leadership roles, because most of your responsibilities come with vague timelines and a ton of mental load. So these are the moments where your brain will be dragging its feet like, I'll do this later. I need to just tweak this a little bit more. I need to look into this, a bit deeper. But when you set a mini deadline, you're literally forcing your brain into execution mode with no time to overthink every detail. So mini deadlines are going to give you momentum. Just imagine you had this report that you had to hand in. In our case, it used to be appraisal forms, but the deadline is a month or two from now. So you tell yourself you have enough time because no one is asking for it yet, but you're mentally carrying it with you every single day. Suppose you decide to block an hour, a day from now or two from now. Set a timer and tell yourself, I'm just going to get the first version done by this time. And you release all the pressure of having the final perfect report. You'd be surprised by how you come up with something concrete in such little time. You'll be feeling lighter because one more thing has been removed from your plate. Without deadlines, it's very, very easy to fall into the floating work trap. Just look at the example we've just talked about. You do not want tasks to linger in your brain for days, draining your energy, creating unnecessary stress. This is the kind of mental clutter that sneaks up on you unnoticed. And here, you're not just procrastinating on purpose, but because there's no urgency, the work just hangs around. You don't have to wait for motivation. Just create urgency and see how you feel afterwards. At number 7, self-compassion reset. You want to drop the guilt spiral. Beating yourself up for getting distracted only makes focus worse. It sounds counterintuitive, I know. We just assume that if we crack the whip on ourselves, like, what's wrong with me today? Why can't I just focus? Is it so hard for me to be disciplined that we're going to somehow get back on track? But what actually happens in your brain is the opposite. When you criticize yourself for being distracted, your brain interprets that as a threat. That judgment is going to trigger your stress response system, the same fight or flight wiring that we use to respond to danger. Then cortisol kicks in, emotional tension rises, and now you've layered self-doubt and stress on top of distraction. So instead of gently returning to focus, you're now mentally spiraling like, why am I like this? Everyone else seems to be more disciplined. I'll clearly never get this done on time. Thoughts, all these are thoughts that just leave you feeling defeated. And that internal pressure is going to create more mental noise, making it even harder for your brain to concentrate. And now your nervous system is wired for defense and not focus. So being hard on yourself for losing focus is like yelling at a tired muscle and expecting it to perform better. And what it really needs is oxygen, and a moment to reset and a kind nudge just to try again. So distraction doesn't need discipline, it needs compassion. Because focus does not come from force. It comes from returning again and again and again, but with grace. So the next time you feel the clouds of judgment, and self-criticism just gathering in your head after doom scrolling on Instagram during work hours, don't waste time shaming yourself. Just press pause and recommit. Replace the self-judgment with self-compassion and redirection. Just tell yourself, okay, my mind stepped out of the building for a minute, but I'm back now. And that one gentle line is going to break the shame loop and help you to engage your thinking brain instead of letting the emotional brain hijack your focus. Self-compassion is not a weakness. It's a way of showing yourself grace. So of these 7, which one would you say spoke to you the most, and which one do you see yourself actually trying out, and how soon? Please let me know in the comments section. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, Please give it a like and subscribe if you're not yet a part of this leadership community. Also, feel free to share it with a friend or someone you know who may benefit from this kind of content. And also, if you have a moment, please take a look at this video right here on the 7 signs that you're drained emotionally in your leadership role. It's going to reinforce the importance of protecting your brain at all times. Thank you so much for your company and see you on the next one. Bye.